they opened his tomb. And then people started dying. On November 4th, 1922, a door opened in Egypt, and a curse was whispered into history. Imagine discovering a hidden door in the middle of the Egyptian desert. You brush away the sand, clear a stone step, and suddenly realize you might be the first person to stand here in more than 3,000 years. Behind that doorway is a world frozen in time, untouched, silent, and filled with secrets from a forgotten king. But the moment you open it, strange things begin to happen. And soon rumors of a mysterious curse begin spreading across the world. This is the real story behind the discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb, one of the most important archaeological finds in history. Today we will talk about who Tutankhamun really was, how his tomb was discovered, what was found inside, what made this discovery so special, and why some people believed a curse was involved. In 1922, an archaeological moment occurred that completely changed what we knew about ancient Egypt. Until then, most scholars believed that the Valley of the Kings had given up all its secrets. Many royal tombs had already been discovered, and almost all had been robbed in ancient times. But one archaeologist, Howard Carter, refused to give up on his belief that one last royal tomb still lay hidden. Carter did not come from a wealthy family or attend a prestigious university. He began his career as a young artist who carefully drew ancient Egyptian artifacts and walls. His attention to detail and passion for history eventually turned him into one of the most determined archaeologists in Egypt. He formed a partnership with Lord Carnarvon, a wealthy English nobleman who funded his excavations. Together, they searched for years, finding small clues connected to a little-known boy king named Tutankhamun, but never the tomb itself. As time passed, funding ran low and patience ran out. Carnarvon declared that the 1922 season would be the final attempt, and then everything changed. On November 4th, 1922, while workers were clearing remains of ancient huts, they uncovered a carved stone step buried beneath the desert sand. More digging revealed a staircase leading downward into the bedrock. At the bottom of the stairs was a sealed doorway covered with the royal seals of ancient Egypt. Howard Carter immediately recognized the importance of this moment. He protected the entrance and sent a telegram to Lord Carnarvon that read, "At last have made wonderful discovery in valley, a magnificent tomb with seals intact." Carnarvon traveled to Egypt, and together they created a small opening in the sealed doorway. Carter held a candle inside, and as the light entered the chamber, he saw objects shining everywhere. When asked what he could see, he famously replied, "Yes, wonderful things." This was the entrance to what would later be known as the most well-preserved pharaoh's tomb ever found. When Carter and his team began exploring the tomb, they discovered 4 main chambers, each filled with objects created to accompany the young king into the afterlife. The first room contained furniture, chariots, weapons, shields, and ceremonial beds shaped like animals. It looked as though many items had been placed there quickly, as if the burial preparations had been rushed. A smaller room contained food, perfumes, oils, and small statues. These items represented the supplies and offerings the king would need in the afterlife. The burial chamber contained a large stone sarcophagus in the center. Inside the sarcophagus were 3 coffins placed inside one another like nesting dolls. The innermost coffin was made of solid gold and contained the mummified body of Tutankhamun, wearing the famous golden mask that is now recognized around the world. Another chamber, often referred to as the treasury, was guarded by a statue resembling the jackal god Anubis. Inside were ritual objects, containers holding the king's preserved internal organs, and model boats that symbolized the king's journey to the afterlife. In total, more than 5,000 objects were found in the tomb, creating a complete picture of royal life, religion, and burial customs in ancient Egypt. Before exploring what happened next, it is important to understand who Tutankhamun was. He became pharaoh at around 9 years old and ruled Egypt for approximately 10 years. He lived during a time of major religious conflict. His probable father, Akhenaten, had attempted to replace Egypt's traditional religion with the worship of a single god, Aten. After Akhenaten's death, Tutankhamun restored the traditional religion and returned the worship of the many Egyptian gods. His name was changed from Tutankhaten to Tutankhamun, meaning living image of Amun, one of Egypt's most important deities. Tutankhamun died when he was around 19. The exact cause of death remains unknown, but scientific studies suggest he may have suffered from malaria, bone disorders, and complications from a leg injury. These findings indicate that his health may have been fragile. Although he did not achieve great victories or build monumental structures like other famous pharaohs, the preservation of his tomb made him the most recognizable pharaoh in history. Now that we understand who he was, let's return to the events surrounding the tomb. Shortly after the tomb was opened, Lord Carnarvon died from an infection caused by a mosquito bite. Newspapers quickly created dramatic stories, claiming that anyone who disturbed the tomb of a pharaoh would face a deadly curse. Rumors spread that lights went out across Cairo at the moment of Carnarvon's death, and that Carter's pet canary had been killed by a cobra. Although these stories captured public imagination, there is no scientific evidence supporting a supernatural curse. Most people involved in the excavation lived for many years. Howard Carter lived 16 years after the discovery. Scientists believe that if anyone became ill, it may have been due to mold, bacteria, or dust trapped inside the ancient tomb. Despite this, the myth of the curse became widely popular and remains part of the story today because mystery and legend attract attention. Excavating the tomb took almost 10 years. Every object was documented, photographed, and carefully preserved. This discovery transformed archaeology by shifting the focus from treasure hunting to scientific study and conservation. Tutankhamun's treasures traveled across the world, drawing millions of visitors to museums and exhibitions. His golden mask became one of the most well-known historical artifacts ever discovered. The discovery of this tomb continues to teach historians and scientists about ancient Egyptian art, medicine, religion, and daily life. It remains one of the most valuable archaeological findings of all time. Although Tutankhamun did not rule for long and did not build massive monuments, his tomb allowed the world to see ancient Egypt in a way no other discovery had before. The ancient Egyptians believed that as long as a person's name is spoken, their spirit lives on. Today, by telling this story and remembering Tutankhamun, we help preserve his memory and the history of an incredible civilization. And that was the event that took place on November 4th. But here's the question everyone still argues about. Do you think the deaths connected to this discovery were really caused by a pharaoh's curse? Or was it all just coincidence and superstition? Tell me what you think in the comments.